Hey, question for you. Since his affair, do you feel like you have the need to control everything right now? And what I mean by that, it's his phone, like checking his messages, his call logs, looking at his social media. Do you feel like you need to control? You need to be in the know. Control in the know. Another thing, like his whereabouts, you're tracking him. Sorry, my notes are over here today. So his whereabouts, tracking his location, needing to know when he's going to be home, time, like his schedules, monitoring his schedules, his social interactions, who he's talking to, who he's spending time with, his words, analyzing everything he's saying. Like, does he really mean that? So I want to check in. Do you feel like you're controlling everything? Have you become this hyper vigilant wife that you never thought you were? You used to just let him be, but now you need to know what's going on in his phone, his whereabouts, who he's talking to. You're analyzing his words, his emotions. You're kind of like, okay, what's he feeling here? Expecting him to show some guilt or remorse, like wanting him to feel guilt or remorse. Also his actions, trying to prevent this dishonesty from happening again. So do you feel like you're in this place? And it's often not about just the betrayal, right? He shattered you. So we're going to talk about 7 steps that will show you if you're in that zone of being a controlling wife and how you get out of it. So like I said, it's not this post-betrayal controlling isn't just about controlling him. Like, it seems so mean. I don't even want to use the word control because that's not really what you're doing. It's this desperate attempt to really feel safe. You're trying to control because that gives you some sense of, all right, if I can control, then I can prevent it from happening again. You're constantly checking his whereabouts. That is because you want to feel safe. You're trying to prevent more pain. So that's what we're doing here. You're questioning his every move because you want to understand, because if you understand, then we can make sure it doesn't happen again. So in this live, we're going to talk about and we're going to uncover the seven things that let you know if you're a controlling wife and what to do. And I want to be really careful with the word controlling. It sounds horrible to be a controlling wife, but this is a survival, this is a safety instinct right now that you are activating because your world has been shattered. You're like, who am I? Who is he? Who is this marriage? And so if I can understand what he's doing on his phone, what he's doing on social media, who he's talking to, where he is, then I can start to understand who I am, who he is, and what our marriage is, and if he's still doing this. So anyway, for those who don't know me, I'm Beth Miller. I am a marriage coach. I am founder of the Marriage Saver program, and I specifically help women who have been betrayed by their husbands heal their marriages and ultimately heal themselves too from the betrayal pain. And if you want to stick around to the end, I have an offer for you. Feel free to book a 15-minute call with us. It's all free. We give you some advice, give you some go-to strategies right there and then, give you a win so that you can start to heal the communication, ruminating thoughts, and rebuild trust. So check that link, it'll be below. Also, feel free to comment below. I want you to comment and let me know, what do you feel like you're controlling the most? Like, what are you most obsessed with? And I feel so like empathetic when I use those words, controlling, obsessed. It's your body's way of surviving right now. Your nervous system is in fight, flight, freeze. Like, it is trying to survive right now. It's trying to make sure that what you're going through isn't going to happen again. So back to the topic, 7 ways ultimately to stop being a controlling, like, I hate using that word, controlling wife after your husband's affair. So like I said, comment below, what behavior are you engaging in most? And I think I alluded to this earlier. I'm just going to repeat it again, but the kind of control that you're engaging in post-betrayal, it's not just about the betrayal. It's because you've been hurt. This is your body's nervous system saying, hey, not okay over here. You weren't born with this instinct to control. Maybe a little bit, but not to this degree. This need to control stems from a desire of safety. It creates this false sense of security. When you can try and understand what's going on in his phone, where he is, it creates this false sense of security. It keeps you trapped in anxiety. That's the thing too. Before you even go to look at his phone, you're already anticipating, what am I going to find this time? Or if you're rereading text messages to see if you can find more details in it, you're putting yourself in this state of like high anxiety. We call it high beta. Beta is your thinking, planning, organizing brain. You're in beta. When we do hypnosis, which is one of the strategies I use with our clients to just get to the root, you're in theta. It's a very calm state. That beta brain is like, I can breathe. Delta brainwave state, that's when you're asleep. So we want to make sure you're not in that high beta state, right? What happens is you're controlling because it sometimes fuels resentment inside as well. It's just like feeding into, this is why he's a horrible person. This is why he could do it again. It prevents you from moving forward and building trust because you're trying to catch them in these things, and it blocks your emotional healing. So we want to stop these controlling behaviors so you can be yourself again. You don't want to be this way. You don't like who you become. I hear all my clients often say, I don't like who I am. I want to find myself again. I've lost myself. This is not who I am. I have clients who say, how can I stop controlling everything and really start healing? Like, how can I finally not want to check his phone and think about it? How can I rebuild trust without constantly questioning him? Like, how can you rebuild trust without asking him all these questions? How can you stop living in fear? Fear that you're going to be hurt again. Like, these are awesome. Like, how can you stop controlling? How can you stop asking questions? How can you stop living in fear? How can you take control of your healing in this situation? How can you regain peace in your marriage? Your marriage is new. It's going to be a new marriage. We can't go back to what you had. It's going to be a marriage 2.0, 3.0, wherever you are in that marriage building spectrum. But this is where you're at. And so there's grief in that as well. But today we're going to get those answers. Let's dive in. How to stop being controlling in this relationship. So controlling behaviors, like I just said, you're monitoring, you're questioning, maybe even manipulating your partner's behaviors a little bit in his actions. And this can be in micromanaging, asking lots of questions, maybe imposing these unrealistic expectations like he can't go there, you don't want him to go there. And this can lead to a breakdown in trust for him as well, which is crazy. He's done this to you. He's broken trust, but now he's starting to possibly feel controlled, feel scrutinized, and then he doesn't want to even recreate the intimacy because he's growing angry that you're treating him maybe like a child, even though that's not your intent. You're trying to protect yourself. So it may seem daunting to address these behaviors. Remember that change is possible. So I'm going to guide you through some of those insights. So confront your insecurities is number one. Like, that's why this is happening too, because you're not confident that you're safe in your marriage. So sometimes these can stem from this desire to get control of the marriage, right? And get control of your own feelings. So if you know what he's doing, you know who he's talking to, you then feel safe because you're like, okay, I know what's happening. But then sometimes you can't sleep because you're thinking about it, or you can't focus at work because you're wondering what he's doing, who he's talking to. It's lunch break. He works with her. Is he talking to her? So it creates this negativity loop inside your brain. And the more you think these same thoughts of where is he, what's he doing, who's he talking to, it becomes like 60,000 thoughts a day. It just becomes automatic. You start thinking it all the time. You're conditioning yourself to think this way. And so what we want to do is uncondition you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, and I'm the person, I just want to get to it, right? I don't even know if I want to give you all these 8 steps, but really it's address your insecurities. It starts with you. And I know this can be really frustrating because it's like, he did this to me. You're the one that's in so much pain. He might be too. He might not be talking about it, but you're in a lot of pain. And the insecurities in your marriage, potentially in yourself, is this about me? Is this something I did? If he loved me, why would he do this? So we got to address that and realize, you know what? Regardless of his actions, I am lovable. Regardless of his actions, I am worthy. Regardless of what he's done, I am not a fool. I am not a failure. And so we want to address these insecurities. So like, you know what? Whatever he does, that's fine. I know I am worthy of a strong relationship and I choose to stay. And so what we want to do is we want to get to the root of those insecurities. Have they always been there in some sort of capacity? And the infidelity is just like, whew, I really don't feel like I'm confident. Or were you like, I was a confident person before. I was successful. I was a powerhouse. I was living this incredible life and my world is just shattered. I don't know who I am. Where did this insecurity come from? And so we want to dig into, why are you feeling insecure? Are you feeling like you're not as pretty? Was it a younger affair partner? Are you feeling like you're maybe not as sexy, or you're not as, like, things that they did together, like we never did that together in terms of intimacy? So how is this playing out in your mind in terms of intimacy? So tell me about that. So we want to address these insecurities, and we have this hypno journey that we call the self-doubt hypno journey, and that's a great one at pulling out these insecurities that have come up that aren't necessarily real. It's like your mind just like, but maybe he did this because I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not funny enough, or I'm not blah 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 blah, things that maybe she was. So we want to dig into those insecurities. The other thing we want to do, step 2, is we want to understand our fears, because that's another reason we're trying to control. Again, I don't love the word control or obsess over, but it's fear, false evidence appearing real, FEAR. And what happens is when we live in fear, we're living it once that for no reason, and potentially twice if it does happen. So if you're fearful he's going to cheat again, he may never cheat again, but you're living in that fear. Your nervous system, you might feel it in your chest, you might feel it in your belly, you may feel it as a headache, you're not sleeping. Like, that stress, that fear is manifesting in your body. And so we don't want to do that. So we need to calm your nervous system down. So Controlling behaviors may also stem from understanding the fear. So we need to understand the fear. So fear of losing him is a big one. That's a common fear. Another one is fear of insecurity. And that is that, again, he's going to cheat on you. We've addressed that one. Fear of the unknown. That's a big one. I think a lot of us have fear of the unknown. Even if it's not infidelity, it's like, what's going to happen when somebody is sick or financials or work changes? There's fear of the unknown. And so we really want to heal that fear and address it. And so an activity that I do is I want you to list all your fears and make sure you're in a good headspace when you're doing this. Like, list out your fears, because I don't want this to be too triggering, but list out all your fears and then kind of list out like, okay, why are these fearful? But then I want you to list the worst case scenario. Be careful with this. If you don't feel like you're in a good place to do this, just be careful, because I don't want to trigger you. But what are your fears? What are the worst case scenarios? Worst case scenario, he's going to do it again. Then I want you to ask yourself, will I be okay? Will you be okay? You know what? You're in some capacity really good right now. You're fine. You will survive this. Deep down, you know you're going to be okay. Deep down, you know you're going to be okay. If he does this again, you'll be okay. So do you want to live in fear that he's going to do this again? Our thoughts are so powerful. And what we need to do is take power back. To take power back, that means to take action. And to take action, I'm going to overcome my insecurities. I'm going to overcome the fears. I didn't ask for these insecurities. They just came up. I'm going to overcome my fear. I'm taking my power back. And that's a decision. The root of decision in Latin is to cut off. I'm going to cut off all options. I'm not going to live in fear anymore. I'm not going to live in insecurity. I'm going to heal myself. And those are decisions you're making. And when you step into your power, you make a decision. You're like, no, fear is not going to get in the way anymore. So list out your fears. What is the worst case scenario? And will you be okay? And what is the solution to it? Worst case solution is, you know what, we end in divorce. Maybe a solution is, you know what, we stay and we work on this and he goes to therapy this time. So list out the solutions. They're there too if the worst case scenario comes up. Okay, number 3, healing your I was just trying syndrome. Okay, so I was just trying to be helpful. I was just trying to help you with this. So like what we want to do is recognize the pattern. Like take a step back from the interactions with your husband. Do you find yourself giving unsolicited advice, making decisions on your behalf, maybe micromanaging? I was just trying to help with this. That's why, like, I just want to know if you're in the phone. When we use the word just, it's justifying often that you're doing something that you maybe shouldn't. Like, I was just trying to, it's like you're trying to tell that person that, you know what I'm doing was okay. It was with the best intent. So even though your intentions may be good, it may come across as controlling, which can erode trust with him and that mutual respect. He might feel like you're not respecting him. It can leave your partner feeling patronized, invalidated, disempowered, which can then really erode like that growth, that harmony with trying to move forward from the betrayal. So we need to have faith in him. Ooh, that's a hard one. Can you actually trust him and have faith? Well, I choose to trust today. All right, back to that. We said we're going to step into our power. I am going to choose to trust today. I'm making that decision to not go to the place that I can't trust you today. You can't be in limbo land. You're going to make yourself go crazy with all those thoughts. And maybe you're already there. You're like, today I love him. The next day or even an hour later, you're like, I want a divorce. We have to make a choice that day. And so we have these beliefs, the beliefs of I choose to trust. Today, you might not be able to trust him fully yet. You're not there because your nervous system's like, oh, I can't do that. That's too scary. He might hurt me. But I choose to trust today will get you to a place where it'll create the thoughts that are like, okay, I'm choosing to trust today. Yeah, he has his phone out. You know what? I choose that he's using it as a tool to pay bills, that he's using it as a tool to complete some work emails. You choose your belief system. What is it that you want? And so again, we can use hypnosis. It's a really powerful way. If you have a therapist, if you're journaling, if you're going for walks, just to let these thoughts out. Movement's really powerful. Even if you have like a disempowering thought, like I can't trust him, figure out something that you want to do. It could be like, you know what? I'm going to trust him. Like do something like really strong, like use a movement instead of I'm going to trust him. Like if I see how I just like, I'm going to trust him. Yes. Like I did that physical movement, which just changed the energy in my body. So those are things you can do. The hypnosis is really powerful because we get you really relaxed. It's like you go into this very dreamlike state. It's like you're in math class, your teacher's doing Pythagorean theorem fractions on the board, and you are kind of in a daydream-like state. You're not really, you know what's happening. You can probably hear some of the noises, the chalk on the chalkboard or whatever's going on, but you're in this daydream state thinking about later on. That's the state we're in. It's so powerful. And then your teacher's like, hey, Beth. And then you're right back into math class. And so you get into that beautiful state. And in that state, we can say, go to a time you couldn't trust him. Go to a time he hurt you. Go to a time you questioned your worth. And all of a sudden, these memories will pop up very gently. And we go and we just, like, we let them go. Be like, that is not me anymore. I let that go. That is not serving me. That is attached to me in a way that's feeding me thoughts I don't want. So we rewire our beliefs to then create different thoughts. Those are our neural pathways, our neurons in our neural pathways, and then it creates a new neurochemical. Our thoughts, every single thought we have creates a neurochemical. So if I have the thought, like, I can't wait for my birthday, that's going to create a really nice neurochemical of excitement. Or maybe it won't, depending on the person. Or maybe it's like you're having your 50th birthday party and like, I don't want my birthday. I feel like I'm old. That belief, I'm old, that neural pathway of I don't want to celebrate my birthday, I just want it to go away, creates a thought of like discouragement or unhappy, right? So our beliefs create our thoughts, which then, those are the neural pathways, create a neurochemical in our body, sadness, joy, fear, anger, embarrassment, shame. It creates that neurochemical. That's why we own our emotions. Every single emotion is yours. You can't say to him, you made me feel this way. Unfortunately, that's a neurochemical that was made in your body. I'm not saying it's a choice, but that belief that we have, we form that. So yeah, we want to start to have faith in him. Like, you know what? My belief is I'm choosing that he's making some actions. Maybe he's not making all the actions I want. Maybe he's not going to therapy, or maybe he is going to therapy. Maybe he's not reassuring me enough, but I see he's doing some things. So when a man feels supported and believed in, he is more motivated to excel and perform. He needs you to believe in him. It doesn't help him when we keep bringing this back up. He already, like, maybe deep down, he's like, I just want to forget it. I want to move on. I want to shove it all down. We'll deal with that question in another live, but he needs you to believe in him. If not, he's just living this every single day. And again, I think we need to selectively pick which topics we're going to discuss with him, and we can help you discern between what questions do I need to ask today for my healing today. And that's another exercise. List out all the questions you have for him and look at those questions and go through them. What do I need to know for my healing today? And the other ones that you don't need to know today are like, why am I asking this? What's the intent? Is it to see if he has the same answer as the last time I asked it? Or is it to see if he actually remembers the answer this time? Is it to see if this answer aligns with the answer he gave me last time? Which I think I already mentioned that one. Okay, number 4, recognize the I know best mentality. So when we're in that control state, it's like, I know best. You shouldn't be on your phone. I know best. So controlling behaviors can manifest in a form where you're like, I know best. And this is almost like a dominance, out of like, it's a dominance or this general concern where you might undermine some of the trust and mutual respect. So what you're doing is you're quick to make decisions on his behalf. How do I also want to word this? Like, instead of assuring your partner that this is your opinion, you approach it from, this is what needs to be done. It's almost an ultimatum. So we have to be careful between the boundary, like setting a boundary, and an ultimatum, or this I know best. A boundary is loving. It's something that people need to remind. You don't change it without telling others. It's loving for yourself, and that's a boundary. And it comes from this place of like, it doesn't come from a place of this is what needs to be done. So number 5, you need to let go of expectations and roles, like what you need from him, because what he can give you right now might not have been what it was before. Another way and we can talk about that, like in terms of like, what do you expect from him? And maybe it's like a ladder of expectation. You know what, today I can expect him to reassure me in this way. What do you need after that? When he starts to reassure you that, you know what, this isn't your fault. I own this. Or maybe it's the reassurance of, here's my phone. So let's like make a list of expectations that you have for him and figure out, you know, which one can I ask him to meet today? Because sometimes we have all these expectations and he doesn't meet some and we're just angry, but maybe he's meeting others, but we're not seeing that. We're wired to see the kind of the worst. As humans, we have to protect ourselves. So if we see the worst, that means we can focus on it because we can fix it. Versus we need to focus on the good. We live in a society where there's a lot of good. Number 6, we got to start rebuilding trust. Watch some of the other videos on how to rebuild trust. Trust equals consistency over time, but it starts with today. I choose to trust today. I choose to trust today, and creating that belief. And if you can't choose to trust today, list out all the reasons why. And are they all true? Or even list a few, like, I can trust today because of this. Or I can trust today that he's not talking to her at lunch. Or I can choose to trust that he does love me. Break down the trust. What is it that you want to learn to choose to trust versus the whole blanket, I choose to trust? Another one, let me see here. What else do I want to say here? 7, don't strive for perfection. Kind of like I just said, focus on the positive there. And number 8, ask for help. We're here for you. Find a community. We have our amazing Facebook group here that's here to support wives whose husbands have cheated, who want to save their marriages. And even if they're not 100% sure they want to save it, they still do. They're still in it. And when we do this healing, when we get rid of a lot of the pain, the hurt, the deep, deep betrayal pain, the clarity comes, do I want my marriage? And a lot of times it's like, yeah, you know what? I do want my marriage. This is marriage 2.0. I know it can be stronger. I can know it can be better. And so ask for help. If not, book a call with us, 15-minute call. Like, if you send us a DM, put a comment below, we're here for you. Put the word chat in below and we're here to help you. We have tons of resources. We can send you free guides on trust, communication, ruminating thoughts, whatever you need, we're here for you. So thank you everyone for joining today. Let me know if you have any questions and we'll talk soon.